Good evening. My name is Jason Sulliman. For those of you that follow my Instagram account or my YouTube channel, you know that 2021 was kind of the year of the slur for me. I wanted to work on my flexibility, and I set out with the goal of recording a different lip slur pattern every day over the course of 2021. And on my Instagram feed, I did that. I recorded 365 lip slur patterns in 365 days. I did one every day, and I got a lot better through that process. So I wanted to continue that. And for those of you that have continued to kind of follow that, you know that I've kind of added in the this alternating between as slurred as possible and as articulated as possible in this Articulation Extreme Challenge of 2022. Just to recap quickly how I came up with the patterns for 2021, because that will be kind of germane to how I'm coming up with the patterns for 2022. All I did was I basically said, okay, let's pretend that numbers can represent partials. So 1 is the fundamental, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I went up to the 6th partial, figuring that's pretty accessible for most people that might be interested in doing this. And if they want to take it farther, they can. But I basically just made up a list of all the possible combinations of 4 different numbers using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that creates a number of little cells that have these different patterns, right? But for those of you that remember, if we're thinking that each of these are the partials, what I wanted to do was remove all the ones that have a number 1 in it, because number 1 is the fundamental, and my slurring and flexibility capabilities down to the fundamental is significantly slower than everything else. So I wanted to just focus and concentrate on the other areas so that I could up the tempo and really work on some aspects of flexibility at the margins of my speed capabilities. So I removed all the ones, and that left me with a certain number of patterns. And then I removed all of the entries that have 2 consecutive numbers. So for example, 2, 3, 4, 4 wouldn't really make a great slur pattern, because you would basically go from the 2nd shelf to the 3rd shelf to the 4th shelf, and then you'd stay on the 4th shelf. That's a different exercise. So here I wanted to remove those. Then I figured out how to determine how disjunct the patterns were. You'll notice over here, 2, 3, 2, 3, referring to the 2nd partial, 3rd partial, 2nd partial, 3rd partial. Well, 2 to 3 is a difference of 1, 3 to 2 is a difference of 1, 2 to 3 is a difference of 1, 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. So this pattern has a leapiness index of 3. Whereas if you come down to this pattern here in column 13, or row 13, I should say, 2, 6, 2, 3, well, 2 to 6 is 4, 6 to 2 is 4, 2 to 3 is 1, 4 plus 4 plus 1 is 9. That has a leapiness index of 9. So then I sorted all of these rhythmic cells by their leapiness, and you'll see that the smallest number of leaps you can have is 1 between each of the 4 numbers. So 1, 1, 1, that means that you can have a leapiness index of 3, and that is the most conjunct lip slur patterns you can have using 4 different notes. So from here, I then realized, okay, I've got some patterns that are a leapiness of 3, I got some patterns of leapiness of 4, I'll kind of just work with those. And then from there, 2021 took a whole direction of coming up with hundreds and hundreds of patterns. And then I basically made a different pattern for, and I'll just show you real quick, I made a different pattern for each day of 2021. And I just did those. I recorded the tempos that I did them at, so I can see that some of them are a little more challenging for me. Some of them lay down a little more easily. My hope is that over time, if other people do this, we may find some correlations across people, or differences, which I think would also be fascinating. But here we are in the year of 2022. So what I decided to do this year is I'm not calling it a 2022 resolution, because basically I'm going to probably do something for like a month or 40 days or 50 days. And then I'm probably going to come up with a way to change it and innovate it. But it's not a 2022 thing. It's a me thing. I'm just going to keep going because I like practicing and getting better. So, and I'm sharing it with you because some of you do too. So all of it's the same for up to a point. Here are the patterns, all the numbers 1 through 6, 4 little cells. Let's take out the pedals. I took out the pedals. Let's take out the 2 consecutive digits. I took out the 2 consecutive digits. Figure out how disjunct the patterns are, split them up into a leapiness, but then I added a 2nd order parameter. So now what I did is, you'll notice 2, 3, 2, 3 has a leapiness of 3, no big deal, but it also measures the distance from the first note to the last note, number of partials, and that is 1 partial difference. Down here, 3, 4, 2, 3 has a leapiness index of 4, but 3 at the beginning and 3 at the end means that the first and last partials are 0 different. So then I separated these into 2 piles. I've got the piles where the leapiness is minimal, but the partial difference is also like 1s and 3s. And then you have leapiness index of 4, and the partial difference is 0. That only leaves you 18 different possibilities. But some of these are derivative possibilities, so I wanted to rule out the derivative possibilities. What do I mean by derivative possibilities? if you have 2, 4, 3, 2, and so for those of you that want to hear this musically, the second shelf, the fourth shelf, the third shelf, and the second shelf, that, let's call that a fundamental pattern, and then a derivative pattern might be just shifting that all up a number of partials and now having 3, 5, 4, 3. And then maybe 4, 6, 5, 4. All essentially the same patternistic, thing in terms of its, algorithm. So then what I said was, okay, I want to make more complicated patterns. So let's take the derivative or the fundamental patterns of these, which are basically stepwise in function, which gives us these 4 patterns. And let's use those as kind of a macro structure, a second order parameter of the way that we take these patterns, these 6 patterns. And what that leaves us with is these total patterns. So you'll notice 2, 4, 3, 2, and then I just go up. So if it starts on 2, then I want to start it on 3, then I want to start it on 4, then I want to start it on 3. So starts on 2, starts on 3, starts on 4, starts on 3. And what that leaves me with is this pattern. Kind of nice. So then what I'm going to do is take that pattern, play it slurred, and then play it tongued. If I can work it up fast enough, then I will play it slurred, tongued, slurred. So it should sound something like this. You get the idea, etc., etc., etc. So that leaves me with 24 new patterns that are a little more complicated in nature. And so then what I'm going to do is throw those into my practice log. Right, let's see, 2022. Here we go. So starting here, instead of continuing the kind of old school thing I was doing, I'm now going to play this pattern tomorrow, slurred, tongued, slurred. And then the next day I will play this pattern, slurred, tongue, slurred. And then the next day I will play this pattern. And that will take me 24 days because there's 24 of them. So I'll do slurred, tongued, and slurred for 24 days. And then I'll go back and I think do all these again, and I'll do them tongue, slurred, tongue, just to see if there's much of a difference. And so that's what I'm up to now. If you're interested, follow me on Instagram. I'm going to post the little zip code patterns. I'm not interested in sharing the Excel spreadsheet for 2 reasons. Number one, it may be complicated because it makes sense in my head, but that doesn't mean it's all clearly communicated here. And if somebody were to take it, do weird things with it, get frustrated with it, and next thing you know, they're blaming me for that, I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. If you want the patterns, I'm happy to share the patterns individually. You're more than welcome to the actual, patterns that way. But I'll post them with the videos and kind of a demonstration of me practicing through them. So let's get better. Happy practicing.